Hello and welcome to Touchline from Casper Elson.
Studio again, and obviously tonight we're going to touch a bit on some curry cup flavour.
Some serious curry cup. We've got a very special guest in studio, and I would like to ask you to introduce our guest, as I believe it's a friend of yours.
Yeah, no one else than Felo Sangweni. He's a KZN old boy. He did the hard yards playing club rugby here for Jaguars. I was fortunate enough, I don't know what I did wrong, but he went into conditioning and not playing rugby anymore. I was fortunate enough to have him play for my Durban Rugby Sub-Union side.
Felo, just from my side, I don't blame you for going into coaching if he was your coach.
Yeah, so Felo Sangweni, Western Province, Senior Curry Cup, strength and conditioning coach. Welcome to the Touchline studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Glad to be here with you guys.
Felo, if I can start. Durban High School old boy.
Yes, correct. DHS.
How did you end up in Western Province?
It's a long story, man. I mean, I always wanted to, of course, represent the black and whites, the Sharks in Durban, which I did in provincial rugby, age group rugby, and I worked there as well as a condition coach. And then, I couldn't crack it to the senior team, so got an opportunity to go overseas for 2 years in Lithuania. I don't even know if some people know Lithuania, but yeah, Eastern Europe.
Yep.
Yes.
And then when I came back, opportunity came through for UCT and Western Province at the same time. So yeah, I think that's how I ended up this side.
But you did spend a bit of time with Varsity College and the Sharks.
Yes.
There was a
Yes,
stint
yes.
that you had with Varsity College.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yes, while I was at the Sharks, so I got an opportunity as well to work with the club side, Varsity College, which they play in the Premier Division.
Yes.
Which I think it was a great experience as well for me. Working at the Sharks, now moving back to the club side, I think it gives you the balance of both. Working in the professional setup, to the club side, you got guys that's just playing for social. I think it's actually in the coaching as SNC coach, you still grow because you get something at club that you don't get at the union. Because they're more professional. Now you must deal with some guys that just want to play social as well.
Yes.
So, Felo, obviously when you went to Province, you were initially part of the under-21 setup, am I right? So obviously you did a stint there. How did it come about that a Sharks boy later on becomes a Curry Cup strength and conditioning coach? Because regardless of what age group you are at, any level, I think it's a privilege and an honour to be involved in rugby. That's your passion. We know, and I say this with respect, you're not the biggest of fellows, from a rugby playing point of view, but you can still live your dream in doing what you're doing. And now you are with Jerome Parvater and them in the Curry Cup. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but you were them and you're still living your dream, and you yourself are still young enough to continue in your growth.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, when I got here, I was with under 21. So it was actually tricky because I was doing UCT Varsity Cup and under 21 at the same time. So it was a bit tricky there. But I mean, I grew with that because Varsity Cup also is a big platform.
Correct.
With Western Province.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough to be part of both teams that were doing well that season with great management. UCT finishing second in Varsity Cup, we lost in the final against Tux. Rudy Dammers, I mean, he was coaching them. So, knowing him from Durban and Glenwood, it was a bit painful losing against him, KHS Glenwood rival.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and then also we went to under 21 Curry Cup and we went unbeaten, and then we lost in the final as well against the Lions. So I think for my first season in Cape Town, I would say it was very successful, for losing only in the final.
Yeah.
So I've only lost 2 games. Last year, I only lost 2 games in about 22 matches I've been part of in the Western Cape Rugby.
So we're going to ask you just now what's happened this year. But before we get there, So before we get there,
Uh,
what I wanted to say is we were privileged enough to host. When I say we, the Sharks, were privileged enough to host Province here a few weeks ago when you played at your old stadium. And Cas, what was nice to see is, you know, this is what we always tell: rugby is, or sport in general, keeps the people together.
Yes.
His contacts that he has, like all of us, all over wherever we've been, is phenomenal. And when Province played, you could hear the guys in the stand shouting it, hey, Felo, and he's showing thumbs up to the people. And that's great because that will never change. You know, you might move from province to province or country to country, but your friendship you build over the years, which is great. Anyhow, enough of that. So if we can talk, and we'll go into certain things just now. Just the transition from the under-20s to the Currie Cup side. Now, obviously, it's new management and different players, and although you've worked with them, as a strength and conditioning coach, the public might not know this and how exactly it works. Other than strength and conditioning, so when we talk strength and conditioning, it's gym work and fitness levels and all of that, but there's more to it than just that. So just in a nutshell, if you can just explain to us, what does a strength and conditioning coach do? And obviously, if the team doesn't perform, it could be solely on you because the guys aren't fit enough or strong enough or whatever. Am I right in saying that?
well, so just to try and not summarize it, but the basic, but for strength and condition coach for a sport team is, it's your job to, beginning of the season, of course, you want to first test the guys where they're at physically in the gym in terms of conditioning pace, and then you go outside on the field where you test your fitness ability as well. So fitness is also divided in certain forms, you know. There's aerobic, there's anaerobic, you know. Aerobic, which is the one that your marathon runners have, you just need to run, you know. And then anaerobic, which is rugby. Anaerobic is when you work hard for 10 seconds and then you rest, which is just your scrum break or your line out or someone being down. So you gotta have that energy to keep going for long, and also gotta have the energy to go hard for long and then take a break, but consistently. So you need to try and make sure we have levels. So we look around, like you look at your Super Rugby guys, your URC guys, what's the norm for each position? And then we push players to be in those norms, if not above. So I always try to push my players above your average norms in Currie Cup or in URC. So you always want to have a prop. If they say the prop's supposed to run 2 kilometers in 7 minutes, so I always try to push my prop to get it below that. So that's the goal. So yeah, that's your job. And then in season, you need to make sure the guys, of course, the training program is catered for the guys. Players are different, you know, your props and your sensors can't train the same. Your back three can't train the same as your scrum offs. So the program needs to differ a little bit. So, but there are basic stuff that everyone needs to do. Everyone needs to be strong on the legs. Everyone needs to be strong on the upper body. And then, of course, your more jumping stuff, your landing stuff. So your scrum off doesn't need to do your land out jumping stuff. So just to make an example. And then even your core stuff, like if you're training your core now, your front rows need to have strong core to maintain the scrum, you know. And your core for sensors and props slightly different as well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, I think. And also I think what's the most important thing is, the first thing is have the players buy in as an SSC coach, because you can have the best program, you can design the best one, but if your players are not buying into it, you can't really succeed.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is knowing your customers, you know, which it's better here because the squad, you'll have a squad of about 30 guys. So we can actually spend time, do one-on-ones with them, ask them, okay, are you happy with where you are? What would you like being included in your program specifically as an extra? So you know, okay, this guy likes this, he doesn't like this. So you can always know what works for him, what doesn't work for him. And then also just knowing them, because some players, we're going some rough times at home. They come in the session, you can see they're not themselves. They're going through mood swings. So you need to know, you know, he's not himself. So you need to pull him aside, chat to him. But if you don't really know them, you just, it's whatever. So I think it's very important, the buy-in and knowing your customers as an SSC coach and of course being patient with what you're doing.
And then, sorry, yeah.
Before you go, Felo, just quickly, a couple of rapid-fire questions here. I want to ask you some personal questions. Your
Right.
first car. Your very first car.
First car, Polo Vivo 2021 model.
Yo, that's a new car. That's not a first car.
Yeah, I mean, it was my first car actually. It's the first car I've owned.
What do you drive currently?
Exactly the same
That
car.
same car. All right, cool.
Loyal.
Pizza or pasta?
I'll have to go with pasta.
Food that you absolutely hate on your plate. It mustn't be there.
It's a tricky one, eh? I love food, so I would say I'll go with anything, but it mustn't be spicy. I can't tolerate spicy food.
Oh, and you're from Durban.
The Indian
I was waiting
community
for
here is
that.
going to fire you. Best holiday destination?
I'll have to go with Austria or France.
Yo, 2. Dream job when you were little.
Thinking about it.
Now you must think carefully.
Funny enough, I always wanted to be in the military, but
Oh,
I'm not convinced with our South African military, so I think rugby did the best job.
Close enough. A moment on the field that you regret.
And I regret, I don't think I have any, eh?
Yo,
I just enjoyed and lived that moment, so I don't think I have any.
you just live with your mistakes.
Yeah,
That's
learn
it.
from them.
Cool. Favorite book?
I would say it's a book by Napoleon Hill. It's Outwitting the Devil. The Devil.
Career highlight?
There's 2. Well, the first one is, of course, being part of the senior Curry Cup at Western Province, especially at my age. I didn't dream of it, honestly speaking. So I wanted to do it, but not at this age that I'm currently doing it. So for me, that's definitely number 1. And the second one was being part of the national team in Lithuania, which is, for me, it was good. And also, I did it when I was 26. So for me, it was pretty good.
Cool.
yeah, so just to come back quickly, Fellow, just from a strength and conditioning point of view, just for the listeners out there and the viewers, obviously there's a lot of planning in ensuring that your players, various levels now obviously, but that your players peak at a specific time, or you go through your weekly planner and they need to get there. So twofold here on that. One, as a coach, how much planning do you actually put in it weekly, monthly, however you do it? And then obviously on the other side of that, the players themselves, through yourself now, the players need to actually physically do the conditioning to get there. So the planning on both sides, yours preparing for sessions and that, and theirs to ultimately get there hourly, per day or per month. How does all of that work? Because obviously it will vary from a professional level like yourselves to a club level like other people. So, but on your side, how much planning is there?
I think, Coach Mark, it's quite a lot. I think we do a lot of planning away from the office, because when you're there at the office, it's just more executing. But when you're home, that's when you do most of your planning, because I think without planning, it's a problem. So, but also planning, that's when you need to sit down with your coaches, because you can't do planning alone. So, me being a condition coach, I can only be good as my coaches as well. You know, the coaches need to buy in as well, and I need to know what the coach's session, what he wants in a session, and also he must understand what kind of metrics I want in a session. So the metrics is, maybe I want 600 meters of top speed in that session. So within his drill, he needs to try and make sure guys are moving at high speed, or they're executing at high speed. And just to give you a rough idea in season, so on a Monday we'll come in, we're doing more clarity session. So clarity, because we played on the weekend, on Monday we're coming in, it's more looking back, okay, what went well in the game, what didn't go well. So it's more like a walkthrough kind of session, correcting all the mistakes. this pod needs to be here. So from my side, I don't ask for much in terms of conditioning, because every time the players are on the field, we still need to benefit in terms of conditioning as well. So I don't really push the coach much and say, no, the players must move hard and everything. I give room for the coaches in season on Monday to correct and everything. So everything is just slowly, but it's more technical. So on a Tuesday, I always try and do contact day on a Tuesday. So, because in rugby, what gets you tired, it's not really your running. It's your tackling, racking, scrumming, mauling. That's what gets you exhausted. So you always want to try and do that as early as possible in the week, because you don't want to do that close to the game, because your body takes a while to recover. So I try to do that on a Tuesday, and of course the coaches also agree with it. So on a Tuesday you do more your live scrums, your live mauling. You can do your live drills for defense and racking and stuff. And also at that same time now, the pace of training needs to go up a little bit. Maybe your line speed on defense. That's where you're gonna get your high speed, pushing hard on line speed on defense. Of course, chatting, communicating. And then fortunately enough, we have at professional level, you have GPS, and then there's something that you put on the side of the field that tells you exactly how many meters you've covered while you're training. And if some players are not moving at the pace you want them, you can usually tell them that you're not moving at the speed you want. So, which I think for me, it makes my life easier, because I don't need to go back, see who was training hard and who wasn't. I can literally tell you immediately that you're not working hard. And then at the end of the session, I always pull those guys aside just to top up and make sure they're topping up whatever they didn't take. And then Wednesday, we give the guys off, because I believe you can't go 3 hard sessions in a week. So at least 2 hard sessions and then rest. And then on the Thursday, we go more high speed. So it's more like your game situation, but no context, just a high speed executing your plays, struck plays off the scrums, struck plays off the line outs, defense as well, kick chase, kickoff receives. So there you're getting more high speed and using more full field, using the whole field now. So the guys are moving at high speed, because you want to get the spike up. So you can't really start the Monday on a high, because the guys are peaking way too early. The game is on Saturday. So you want to slowly build up, and then on a Wednesday is slight dip, which is your recovery, and then Thursday is high speed, captain's run on Friday, and then Saturday, that's where you add. So you always want to try, it's more like a graph, pretty much. You can't start here and then you don't want to peak way too early. So that's what you want to try and achieve. But I think the planning is only good as a team, because the coaches need to understand what you want, and then also you must understand what the coaches want. In season, you my boss, actually. In season, you call the shots, Coach Mark, as a coach, and then I just work and plan around what the coach wants. And then off season and preseason, I have most of the time, so I can say, no, I want the players to gym, I want the players to do this, because that's more the building phase. In season, I just work behind the coach, so the team comes first, and then the conditioning will come after.
Perfect.
Felo, how much input do you guys take from the players in planning a session like that, if any?
I'll say we do. I mean, we can only get better by being open-minded, and because the players are the ones on the field.
Yes.
They're the ones taking the bullets on the field. We're on the side. So, like an example, if in the gym, like just now talking from the gym side, in the gym, a player might say, listen, let's say a tight head prop. A tight head prop scrums with 2 people, the hooker and the loose head. He tells you, listen, I see my core stability is not where I want it to be. So can you please include more core stability stuff in the gym? So yes, definitely, maybe a lock might say, we're jumping way too much in the gym. When you go outside to do line outs, I feel a bit fatigued on the legs. So can you maybe just tame down in the gym on the jumping, so I have enough energy to jump after for the line out session?
Yes.
So we do. You gotta be open. Like I said, you gotta know your customers, and you gotta be open. And game-wise as well, when it comes to planning the field sessions, players might say, we feel like we didn't use all our struck plays in the game. So on clarity session on Monday, they might come in and say, can we actually focus more on our line-out exits maybe, or can we focus more details on our breakdown breakdown plays and everything. So I think the players have, but we don't. It's not open to everyone.
Yeah.
So each department has the focus on. So like your fly half and fullback, they're in charge of. And then your loose forwards, like our captain Nama Klaba, he's in charge of the breakdown. So and then you get your locks, your jumpers are in charge of lineouts, and then your number 13, your centers are in charge of defense, communicating. So whenever we have meetings, if we say, okay, we're talking defense now, so only those two guys will have the most say because it's their department. They talk about it. And then the defense coach can come to them and say, listen, what's working, what's not working. And then so they're like the middleman between the coach and the team.
That's great. And, guys, something like that works, obviously. It's a more professional setup. But what's important there, you give the players entitlement, so they're in charge of certain things. And what is important here as well, it's a maturity level of the players. Because a lot of times when we were at club rugby or you go back to schoolboy rugby, when you say you're 3 seconds too late, players believe that they're not wrong. And if you're at a level like this where they themselves, obviously they got all the stats to prove that you're too late or whatever the case might be, but if the players are mature enough to say, listen, we're too slow in the lineouts for whatever it is, increase something or take something away, I mean, then half your battle is won because the players obviously buy into the setup. So it's great.
It is great. Felo, then, one more question from my side is, where do you see Felo going from here? What is the next step? And in that, also, where do you see yourself progressing to as the ultimate job in what you do?
For me, from where I'm currently at, I mean, I'm still trying to enjoy and, just enjoy the kind of space and work I'm in. I love it. And going forward for me, I think, of course, it'll be great to get green and gold colors in conditioning, whether it's your under 20s, Springbok SAA or the box. For me, it doesn't really matter. But for now, I just want to do well with the current team that I'm with. And for me, that's my main goal currently. And in the long term, I would like to give back, in Durban, especially in schools. I mean, I came from high school in Durban as well, And I know some coaches understand rugby, but some coaches will literally say, run around the field 10 laps as warm up, which it doesn't really help a rugby kid. But so for me, I think it's more have a platform where high school coaches or primary school coaches, even though they're not conditioning coaches, but they have to be a little bit clued up what to do, what players want, because they don't have the luxury of having a conditioning coach for under 14, 18, conditioning coach for under 15, under 16. Each coach takes care of his own team. So I think having small seminars now and then, educating the coaches, what works for juniors, because training a 14-year-old and the 18-year-old is two different species. Those are two different kids. So you can't really be happy that, my boy is deadlifting 200 and he's 14. You're killing that kid. So it's just, for me, that's one thing I would like to do, because where I'm at now, I meet kids that were well praised in high school, but they have so many minor injuries caused by what they were doing in high school, not being monitored. Like the technique is bad. A kid is happy he can squat 200, but the technique is very bad. Bad for his knees, bad for his lower back. Doesn't give him longevity in his career. So I think for me, it's just have a platform in long term where coaches can pop in, drop questions. I can drop videos how to train, literally from 13-year-olds to semi-professional or even professional level players.
Thank you for that. Can we move on to some actual rugby here?
Here we go.
Here we
Felo,
go.
it's coming.
Let's
I'm
go.
sorry, I need some water for this.
Let's give you a break. We're going to talk URC first. The games played over the weekend, Benetton versus Zebra, which was the local derby, the Italian derby. Benetton walking away with a 39-17 win there. And then the Dragons and Cardiff. And Dragons 18, Cardiff 19. That was a very close game. But now, before we go there and discuss those games, I want to go to the upcoming games, the fixtures for the weekend coming. We've got all our franchises playing overseas, and I would like to talk about that. We've got the Sharks going to Ulster, the Bulls going to Osprey, the Lions going to the Dragons, and then the Sharks going to the Scarlets. Or the Stormers, sorry. The Stormers going to Scarlets. Let's start with the Sharks, Ulster. Felo, if I can ask you, what do you think is going to be the outcome there?
Yes, you're looking at.
Listen, Felo, you need to be nice now. You said you wanted to come back to Durban, right?
I think with that one, as I'll say Sharks by 6 points.
Sharks by 6.
Yeah.
The Bulls, Ospreys? Mark?
Look, let me start like this to say, if I can go back to the Sharks as well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a close one. I think Felo's got it spot on. I'd like to think the Sharks would take it.
Yeah.
To be honest, we've spoken about this for a while now. We haven't really played consistently well week in and week out. Our big tests will come now that we're away, and Ulster is not a bad side. So we're obviously all fighting for home semis and so forth. So I think all these teams are going to be a battle royal. But I think if you look at Ospreys, Bulls, that's what you asked.
Yeah.
I think the Bulls are.
I know you never answer what I ask you. You always answer what you want to. But
the Bulls, I think the Bulls are going to be too strong if they continue like they do. And test will be now, because we know at Fort Loftus they're very astute in what they're doing and meticulous in planning. All that won't change. But all our tests would be away. But I think they will be too strong for the Ospreys. Maybe by 13.
Hello.
Like Mark mentioned as well, I think now it's a good point. It's a good time for everyone to try and claim your home semis, home quarterfinals, which the Bulls already have. But I think the home semi-final is what people are pushing for. So I think the Bulls will try and literally bring in their big dogs and bring in their A game. So I think the Bulls will take it with the bonus point. Yeah.
Okay. And then the Lions, do you think the Lions would be able to continue with their winning streak?
Yeah, having my little brother playing there, so I think, the boys will definitely pull it. And also, I mean, it's their last game, pretty much, before the playoffs. So I think it'll be very good for them to finish off on a high, considering not having the best season, but and also it's their first season in URC. So I think I'm begging them to actually come back with the win.
Well, everything considered, they're not doing too bad, considering that they 11th on the log. If you think where they started and how they started the season, 11th on the log is not, I think, is not bad for where they started.
Look, if you look at their home ground advantage that we've had all along.
Yes.
I mean, the stint that we've had at home, they've actually been good. And let's be open and honest here. Unlike the Stormers, the Sharks, and the Bulls, in theory, and I say this with respect, they have no name brands. There's no Springboks and guys that have been playing at that level. I mean, at this level, some people will question this, but this might even be higher than Super Rugby, if it makes sense what I'm saying, especially playing away in the north. And the Lions are a young side, as he's just saying now. It's a young side, some quality players there, but there's no superstars. And in the beginning, they struggled a little bit, but they're finding their feet. I mean, I'm not talking about the rest of the Lions going down Curry Cup and all of that. We're talking URC specifically, and they have turned the table. So I think, and both those teams, in theory, have nothing to play for but pride. And I would also like to think the Lions will be too strong, but the Dragons aren't going to be easy at home, that's for sure.
No, that's for sure. And then, Felo, the Stormers. Stormers, Scarlets?
I think the guys will definitely come back home with a bonus point, which was what we want. So we can hopefully finish second and then get a home semi-final.
Yes.
So I think, yeah. So I think the guys, they've been good. We haven't lost a game at home as well. So, and I was having a week off, so I think the guys are well rested. So going there, guys are prepared. So I think it's just a matter of executing and then come home with that bonus point.
I think the self-belief has changed over the last couple of weeks as well. In the beginning of the URC, like all our sides, to be honest, battled a little bit. And I mean, it's like the Box when they went to the World Cup. Everyone wrote us off the year last year before that. And if you look at the Stormers, Felo, I mean, you part and parcel of the setup in the union.
Yeah.
Let's face it, last year wasn't a good year for the Stormers. And even the beginning of this year wasn't a good year for the Stormers. And all of a sudden, it's just leave that light switch just went on.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, the Bulls probably are close to the Stormers. But I think the Stormers have been more consistent over the last month or so with regards to rugby.
Yes.
And I mean, if you give their backline any space, they can shut you down from anywhere. So I think you are 100% right. I think they're going to be, although the Scarlets are also a quality side.
It is a quality
with their
side.
national teams back.
Very,
but
very good
I
side.
think if anyone, out of all 4 sides going, I think the and we're hoping for 4 wins, obviously, more so the three franchises that are at the top. But I think if you look from a consistency point of view, then the Stormers and the Bulls are probably right up there to ensure they come back. And don't forget, all these teams would like to get a bonus point as well, because that's what we're fighting for now.
Then the game that I believe is going to be the one to watch is the Leinster Munster, top of the log. Leinster currently at 62 points, top of the log.
Yeah.
Munster at 56 points, second on the log. But the Sharks Stormers are also on 56 points. Sharks lying at number 3, Stormers at number 4, also at 56. The Bulls further down at number 6 with 53 points on the log. So that top of the log match, Felo?
Oh,
Yeah, geez, I watched some Heineken Cup I think on the last weekend and watched both sides playing there. I think it's gonna be flipping the match to watch because I think, yeah, they both doing well. Us, we played Leicester here a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't bring their big
yeah, it was a
names.
B-side.
Your
Yeah.
guys like Johnny Sexton were not here. All the front rows they have. I mean, all their front rows guys, they play British nationals. So I think, and they actually bring them back now to play because I mean it's playoff time. So I think we up for a proper match. I think at halftime it's gonna be tight, and then I think Leicester will pull it away in the last 15 minutes, and they'll win with about 12 to 15 points.
Sure.
Look, I look at it like this, and you know me, I support Munster. Part of the problem here is twofold. We would like a Munster to beat the Leinster,
Yes.
because, as Felo said, when they toured South Africa, yes, we beat them, but let's be honest, they came with a B side,
Yes.
right? So I know Jake White spoke about the unfairness thereof, because they came with a B side and the Stormers and the Sharks played them when the Stormers go overseas. I mean, when the Bulls go and play,
overseas,
they
they
play the A side.
Yes.
But obviously, we also spoke about the Heineken Champions Cup, where they rested their players for that specific game, and that's why they obviously had to be fresh. So if you look at the stats, we want Leinster to beat Munster, and we want the Stormers and the Bulls and obviously the Sharks to win for us to go to that second, third, and fourth space, because that's where we want to go to. But I think it's a psychological thing. Munster haven't beaten Leinster in I don't know how long. Leinster is a quality side. I think if you look at that Leinster side and you let them play international rugby against certain international teams, they'd also win. That's how good they are. So I think it's a tough one. One mustn't get carried away with the fact that they lost to us, because they narrowly lost to us with a B side. They're a quality side. So, but I hope, my heart says Munster because I want them to win. But from a South African point of view, it would be good for us if Leinster beat them.
You're
so
only
that we
saying
can
that
go
because
into
of
the
Dan
semis.
van Zyl, eh? Dan, that was for you.
No, and Johan van Graan. Johan van Graan
Oh,
is
check,
Dan van Zyl is actually a Leinster man.
So what did he do at Munster?
No, he didn't do anything. He's got the context there. Yeah,
Cool.
he's a Leinster man. So Dan, if you're listening, make contact. We'll have that discussion.
Okay, and then if we can move on to Currie Cup.
Yeah, I'm waiting for this.
You've been waiting for this one now. See, here the bus comes. Bulls Lions.
I'm waiting.
You're waiting. Bulls Lions. Bulls 43, Lions 37. It wasn't such a big hiding as everybody thought it's going to be for the Lions. There was big talk during the week, last week, saying that the Lions crossing the Yixkay is gonna have a problem, and it wasn't.
No, for sure. And look, I alluded to it a little bit earlier as well, to say the URC side is doing well and the rest of the franchise isn't, which is a fact if you look at it like that. But if you look at that specific game, 37-43, then something is happening in the line setup. I know a lot of new players, and they've actually pulled in players from the Varsity Cup and whatever as they are contracted. That scoreline, I think, would have surprised many.
Yes.
From a union point of view and from a coaching point of view, obviously they see it differently and they know where they're going.
From a Lions point of view
And
as
you're a
well.
Lion, same, sorry about that. But yeah, you know, so, and that's how it is. You know, so for them, although they lost,
Yes.
I think they would have taken a lot of confidence out of that going into the rest of the Currie Cup. And that's what we want. We want the teams to be as strong as possible.
100%. Felo, I want to ask you, the Cheetahs Sharks clash. 44-15.
Ah, jeez.
The second week in a row now that the Sharks lost this.
They've been doing great. But also just to give credit to the Cheetahs, especially playing there in Bloom, you know, before you even kick off those flipping bikes, revving on the field. They're already, you know,
Yes.
got that mental advantage on you. But I must say, man, I think the Cheetahs have that ability to play together for so long because they only play one competition.
Yes.
Think about
Yes,
it.
yes.
So they'll literally do pre-season, off-season, just for one competition, and they're together. Literally, the combinations of players they don't really change much. With the Sharks, players get pulled and URC come down. There's players there. So I think that's one advantage Cheetahs have. You know, they've been together for so long. They've been training together. They play together. They're only playing for one competition
I agree with that.
with the big squad as well. But I must say they executed well, and they seem to play where they were supposed to play and not to play where they were not supposed to play. And then the Sharks, like Coach Mark mentioned, you know, losing now back to back in Currie Cup, which doesn't put them in good space. But I think, yeah, Cheetahs in Bloom is not an easy one. So, but I think the Sharks would have done better.
So, Felo, if I can just ask you a question there, because when the Currie Cup started, the Sharks actually did well. We were leading the Currie Cup at one stage, and we'll get to Province now. I see you licking your lips, but if we stay with the Sharks actually did well in the beginning. And I can't remember, it's way back when, but I think we lost to the Bulls at Loftus, and I think that's where it started going south. Yeah. So what would you, as a provincial coaching structure, obviously you analyze and you do things like that, and I'm not asking you to go into detail as to what you guys do, so it's more of a pub question, if I can put it that way. What would you think could possibly be the problem from a spectator's point of view? If you see how well your team is doing and all of a sudden they're not gelling and they're not actually getting there, is it a psychological thing? Have they lost belief, or what do you think it could be?
I would say, being part of a structure like that, I would look at first the players we have in that time period when we are doing well, the players we had available for us. If those players are the same players, then I'll say it's more of a mental thing, a self-belief thing. Because maybe, I mean, let's give an example, having a young side playing Currie Cup, of course, if they get 3 or 4 guys like your Ryan Pinar, Francis Ten around them, it gives you that security, you know, that at ease. But now, if let's say we start a season with senior guys mixed with younger guys, and the senior guys get taken away to go play maybe URC, and now it's just maybe your young, inexperienced guys, that might have an effect. But I don't think that's a problem with the Sharks because I feel like it's the same guys. So I think it's more, I don't know, I'll look at more the mental side of thing, and maybe the players themselves just believing in the game plan and themselves, what they're capable of doing.
Pumas, Western Province. Pumas 17, Western Province 23. Traveling to Nelspruit is never easy.
And that's why he's smiling, because they won the game.
They won the game. Yeah. But it
So
wasn't that easy, was it?
Definitely. No, it's not an easy one in Bombela, but I must
You
say they were a
know
very
how
good
they won? They
stadium.
switched the lights off.
One way of doing it.
Well, we don't even know where the switches are, so we couldn't even find the switches.
So just
No,
quickly,
but I must say, listen, Pumas are hard side, you know. Like when we
Yeah.
played them here round 1, played them here at Cape Town Stadium. I think it was a Wednesday game. Jeez, they showed us flames, you know. It's the same thing with Pumas. It's the same thing with Cheetahs, I must say. You know, it's just one big group working together, playing one competition.
No, for
no
sure.
players moving up and
Yeah,
down.
for sure.
So they were very good when we played them in round 1. But also with going up now, like you mentioned, it's not an easy one playing up there. You know, traveling. It's just in Bombela Stadium, their fans. The only thing you see there is pink on the stands. You know, you don't see any blue and white. So you must try and drive yourself. But yeah, it was a tough game. It was a very tough one. I mean, we were leading 20 points to 10, and they managed to come back and, you know, to get a try, and I think, and convert it as well at the end. And then, of course, the lights went off.
That's what I was going
The
to
lights-
ask now, and we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, I mean, that's a professional setup, right? So how did that, if it did, or how could it affect the players on the field? Because, I mean, the lights went out, and then it came back on, but it wasn't the lighting that you were playing under in the first. So, I mean, at certain places on the field it was dark. How does that affect the team, and how do you actually keep them focused? Because, I mean, it's a shock to everyone. Even the commentators got it wrong.
I know it was the floodlights at the stadium going off, because if you look around, the boxes and the suits there, the lights were still on at the stadium. People were still in their boxes there, and then the ref put the lights off because he even issued a penalty in the dark.
Yeah.
Light came on because I asked him how long would it take. He says, no, okay, the lights are coming on. They'll just in 2 minutes the game will go on again. So I look, like you mentioned, when the lights came on, it takes a while for floodlights to fully come on. You don't just switch it on like a house light and it comes on. And then while the lights were coming on, he just let the game flow. Like you mentioned, some players, maybe if he's got eyesight problems, some players would have affected them. But at that moment, I don't think anyone was worried about anything, but just because Pumas had a line out, because they kicked for touch, they had a line out, they mauled it. So I think the main thing was just defend that, because the hooter was gone. Just defend it, try get a knock on or try get a turnover. That's it. I think that only came after the game, because it was just because if they scored, converted, they could have won.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Luckily, you played in the right area as well. So, I mean, that helped you, you know, playing in their half. So,
Yeah. Cool, thank you for that. I just quickly want to move on to club rugby, and especially KZN club rugby. And I want to ask one question, and I only want to have an answer from both of you on this one question. In club rugby in KZN now, we have 4 sides that actually dominate and 4 sides that's getting hidings. But that's not only here. If you look at schoolboy rugby, if you look at rugby all over South Africa, in the schools and in the clubs, there's certain clubs that absolutely dominate, and there's clubs that struggle big time. Now, if I can just go through the Premier League scores for KZN, and that's the Moore Cup Premier League. Amanzimtoti 19, College Rovers 94. Richards Bay 39, UKZN PMB 12. Varsity College 18, Durban Collegians 9. And then, where was the other one? Amanzimtoti, second team, 0, College Rovers 104. And then Westville Old Boys 69, UKZN Durban 5. Hillcrest Villages in the first division 71.
You wanted to smile, yet it comes.
Jaguars 7. Now, my question is, how is it that some of these clubs now have got the ability to put those scores past teams that traditionally were very competitive? And that's throughout now. We can go throughout South Africa and we can go and have a look at it. Roodepoort playing Alberton, and Roodepoort and Alberton in the Joburg, in the Gauteng area, are all strong sides. Roodepoort 52, Alberton 5. Now, Alberton traditionally was where the Bartman brothers came from. And it's all over South Africa. So the question is, why is that possible?
So can I just answer it on his behalf in the beginning, because he was cut off there for a while, I think. So Felo, I'm not sure if you heard the whole question. So technically, what was asked is, why are some teams struggling while the others aren't struggling, and you get higher scores than in the past?
Yeah.
Because this year obviously was that. So if you can elaborate on that, it would be great, and then I'll answer. But yeah, because I think you dipped there for a while.
And I think even also like he mentioned before the whole question, he said even schools, there's schools that are just more dominant, others are more struggling. I think it's more of recruitment. Recruitment plays a big role, you know, recruiting quality players. I feel like every club has a goal and wants to recruit, but of course the funding coming into the clubs, sponsorships, having the right people putting in the right cash in the club, that plays a big role. Because I know some clubs will try and get guys job opportunities so they can commit to the club. I think it's just more of the funding. The more funding you have, the better. Because I mean, if you look at the Sharks, they signing whoever they want now because the funding is good. You look at the Bulls, same thing, the funding is good. It's the same thing, goes down to club. The more funds you have, the more players you can keep, and the quality you have in your club as well.
You want me to answer?
I want you to answer, Mark.
Ditto. I was going to say the same thing. Look, that's part of it. Unfortunately, you're talking funding, so let's go funding quickly. You only basically spoke about players and getting in quality players. With that comes funding. Part of that, which is important, yes, it's a conditioning coach. You look at coaches. I must say this with respect now. Your higher paid coaches, put it that way, if you want to go that route, will go where the money is, because that's their passion. The more they put in, the more they want. So if you are lesser paid coach, then that's the quality that you're going to get. If you're not paid at all, that's the quality that you get. Sadly, that's how it is. Rugby isn't like pre-95 World Cup where it's completely amateur. The sides that we mentioned earlier on are the sides in the leagues all over South Africa that has more funding than others. You can look at the Bulls in their region, the Harlequins and whatever. Sadly, that's how it is. I don't think that's only that, because even at schools, so some schools don't give bursaries or massive bursaries to rugby specific. But I think, in a nutshell, what Felo is saying, I would have given you the same answer, which is sad, though.
Yeah. Gentlemen, we're running out of time, or we ran out of time already. Thank you for that. I really appreciate, Felo. Thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us. Really a pleasure chatting to you.
Felo, yeah, 100%.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
And thanks after all this time to finally commit, in the sense of being busy. I do understand that. But after the Currie Cup final or the week leading up to the Currie Cup final, we'd like to get you in here and maybe
Yes.
one of your other coaching staff and see where you guys ended and that. But for the rest of the campaign, there's not much left. All the best and
Yes,
keep
definitely.
the Sharks flag flying high there at Province for us, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, we're actually playing them last game of the season, so it's gonna be a tough one to keep it flying. So
There we go.
right now I'm blue and gold. Right now it's blue and white.
Blue and
So-
white.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I hear
cool.
you 100%. So thanks for that. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
fella.
it.
Really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
fellow.
To all our listeners, thank you very much. From myself, Casper Els and Mark Cameron, have a great rugby week.